The Chaser Report is recorded on Gadigal land.
Striving for mediocrity in a world of excellence. This is the Chaser Report.
Hello and welcome to the Chaser Report with Dom and Charles.
Charles, I've got an amazing idea for us now.
Oh, yes. Okay.
As I mentioned at the end of the last debacle of the podcast, we were shutting down the Chaser Report. Chaser Report's done.
Oh, yes, definitely.
What we should do, according to this...
Hang on, why are we here?
Well, because we're starting a new podcast. This is a new podcast.
Oh, this is a new podcast?
Yeah, new
Okay.
podcast. Because I found this article from improvedpodcast.com. 21 reasons, Charles, why you should start a podcast in 2023. So if you're listening and you're wondering to yourself, should you start a podcast?
Yes.
We're here to talk you through these reasons from improvedpodcast.com.
Is the first one I can do better than Dom and Charles?
It may well be.
Yeah.
Well, we can encourage you that the bar is low, but also there are some good reasons we haven't thought of, Charles, why we should probably reboot the whole thing. We'll get into them after this. Now, reason one, you're passionate about a topic or have something to say. Charles, you're passionate about a very strange number of topics. I mean, the sheer number of episodes, at least double figures, that have been devoted to inflatable avocado pool toys.
Yes.
OpenAI.
Yes.
The Chinese property market. I mean, these are all things that most people wouldn't bother to have one episode on, and yet you've managed many.
There is a running theme through all of them, which is they are, in some ways, all get-rich-quick schemes.
That fail. Yes.
And they're all designed to sort of try and minimise work in some way.
Lazy and ultimately failed business schemes. It's as though we should forget any other kind of podcast content other than this.
We should do a sort of like investor, because investor podcasts get really good advertising.
They do. We should actually do an investor podcast.
They get unlike our advertisers, they get like high quality advertisers prepared to pay premium.
Charles, we had like the Saudi oil people or whatever, and then we turned them down. We had ethical standards.
And we had Australian oil people and we turned them down.
What we should do is actually start a podcast about the benefits of fossil fuels and how they've really been misrepresented and how clean coal is definitely a thing.
Because the truth is that if we were prepared to run gambling ads, we would be a lot richer.
Why don't we have a spin-off?
Remember that offer? Yeah, we just do one where we go, and we just don't use our names so we don't look like we're hypocrites and
that's right.
Total evil.
Just use completely different names. I was once offered...
I'm going to choose the name Dom Knight.
Oh. I'll be Charles Further. My mobile phone number is... you know that we were once offered... I don't know if you remember this, but we were once offered an all-expenses-paid trip to the World Cup, to the Football World Cup, in order to do a Football World Cup podcast sponsored by gambling. And I so would have wanted to do that. I was desperate to do it.
That would have been fantastic.
And then after 1 second, I realised it was completely untenable in terms of reputation.
Yeah.
And what I didn't realise was that my reputation would be worthless. So I totally should have done it. It was a terrible decision.
So who ended up doing that?
I don't know if it even happened.
But I remember, I do remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such an opportunity.
It's one of the many reasons why the commercial radio world decided that we were not
but I remember
good people to work with.
Our agent coming back and, saying, I've just sewn up this amazing deal. It was a massive deal. But it was with a gambling company and it would have essentially been a gambling podcast.
Yeah.
So I think if you're going to set up a podcast, definitely do that.
Make it a gambling podcast.
People will pay you. I bet you people will pay you if you're into gambling.
Reason 2, podcasting is an easy platform to create content. Well, I think we've proven that over the years. You just turn on the microphones and ramble, isn't it? And that leads me to point 3 as well. You can create long-form content, which is, something that we... All the hours. How many fucking hours of this thing is there? There must be several hundred hours of podcasting.
Why is that an advantage? Nowadays, you're supposed to watch TikTok and YouTube. Like the entire world is going non-long
short form.
Yeah, short form. That's where it's at.
We're the counterculture to that.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, I just saw the other day, I don't know if you saw this, The Rock recorded a 3-hour podcast with Joe Rogan. And that's the world's most popular podcast.
We should totally do that.
Do you think that the popularity of the podcast is because of The Rock or because it's 3 hours long? I'm not sure which it is. Who's got time to listen? Like, that's as long as one of his movies.
No, it's because it's called companion media. Podcasts are companion media. Let me explain the philosophy behind podcasts, which is it's companion media. And it means that if you listen to a podcast, you might listen to it in your car. And in America, the average commute is well over 3 hours.
Oh, there you go.
So you get in the car, you start listening, and you're almost,
3 hours isn't going to cut it, is it, for your whole
3
day?
hours. Like, actually, you got to have a couple of episodes.
That's why Joe Rogan has the 3
Really?
hours a day, because
Yes.
that's what you need for commuting. That's very interesting. Okay, point 4, podcasting can help you build a personal brand. I think you've done that, Charles. I bet
Yes.
listeners feel like they know you.
They know me.
As
Yes.
their friend on the podcast. They can call or
Yes.
text anytime who's shit at business.
If I was to release any product, you know how the test, I don't know whether you've seen that viral video about marketing, but it's this guy who says, if Nike were to release a hotel, you'd know exactly what that hotel would be, right?
No. No idea.
But you get a sense of what it is, right?
It'd be what, made in
you'd be
China
able to
by children?
No, you'd be able to guess that it was all like trendy and sporty.
It would use, and the
the
neon yellow
swipes
colours.
and
Okay.
But if I think
It's called a swoosh.
What's the one? What's the brand? Well, this sort of shows. There's a brand. It's not Hilton. What's the other one that is in that sort of starts with an H or Ridges or something? What's the name of the brand? It's Hyatt.
This company's completely failed to make any impression on Charles at all.
No, but they said if Hyatt released a shoe, you would have no idea what that shoe would be like.
It'll be
right?
uncomfortable
Like,
and overpriced.
It's not what, but it's not
It wouldn't
like
fit.
It's not like Hyatts are different to Hiltons are different to I don't know any other Holiday Inn. Like they're all just hotels, right? Whereas Nike is a brand, right? And I think
lifestyle.
that's what I've done with myself, right?
Yes.
Like, if I were to release a hotel, you would know
It would be
what it would
highly
be like.
dysfunctional. Don't stay at the Charles Firth Hotel. Although I must say, there are some
Some shoes.
You know the hotel that would remind me of.
Yeah.
Banksy released a hotel. He put together a hotel that's literally built up against the wall in Palestine. It's a
Oh,
deliberately
wow.
unpleasant hotel. It's one of his most brilliant ideas ever.
Yes.
Your hotel would be as unpleasant as that hotel. It wouldn't even need to be located in Palestine.
And it wouldn't be a intentional political statement.
No.
It would just be that.
I don't know if it still exists, actually. We should check that out, whether it's been destroyed. Okay, point 5, podcasting can become a second income. Okay.
What do you mean? This is my first income, Don.
Point 6, you can develop multiple different skill sets. That's
Yes,
true.
That's true.
I learned how to
You can-
edit and upload and do everything to do with starting this podcast. And then, thank fuck, we hired Lachlan to do it, so I didn't have to
right.
anymore. But I do technically know how to do it.
No, I think what that's referring to is you can learn other skill sets, like stuff that actually makes you money.
Oh, so you can put yourself in
yeah,
those
like you're
podcasts.
forced to then go and learn how to become a doctor or a nurse or
Yeah.
a teacher or something. Yeah.
7, there are minimal startup costs. Well, that's true. It's not very expensive to start a podcast, unless you value your time in any way at all.
None of these seem to be good reasons. These are all just sort of practical things that are true about podcasting. None of the, like
It's what reasons why you should start one.
no, but there's no sort of like you have a passion that you need, you want to. Mind
No.
you, that doesn't apply to us.
That's
either.
why I love this
Yeah.
list. It's not at all about the content. It's just literally about marketing and sales
Well,
bullshit.
I mean, content is overrated nowadays.
I think listeners to this podcast will agree. Number 8, podcasting can be more fulfilling than video. That doesn't explain why. It just says that it can be.
It can be.
Yeah, I don't really know why that is.
Well, it's the theatre of the mind, Dom.
Student production theatre at the moment.
I mean, there's a chance that, many listeners wouldn't know what we look like, right? So, they might be imagining two debonair, early
might.
40s, cut,
early
hunks.
40s? Oh.
No,
Yeah, I
there's
think 'cause
in
we're
the
not,
theatre of
yeah.
their mind.
Yeah, theatre of their mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we look like.
The Chaser Report. News you can't trust.
Point 9, you want to use your free time productively.
Well, that's not true.
No,
I
absolute
want to do
bullshit.
this.
Okay.
That's a reason to not do a podcast.
Then we move on to the marketing reasons for starting a podcast. Now, this is the one that we'll like. You can repurpose your content is point 10. And that's true.
You can, you never do.
It doesn't work. The
Yeah.
Chaser website occasionally intersects with this podcast, but not as much as it probably should.
Yeah.
We get John Delmenico on
I
occasionally.
mean, I suppose if SMS is an intersection,
people
content,
do text you.
Yeah, people text me all the time.
Oh, we
Like-
reuse the reviews. We repurpose the
Yeah.
reviews of the podcast
Yeah.
occasionally.
Okay.
You can target
And
your audience directly. That's true.
Yeah, but again, none of these are actual reasons. These are just things that you can do with the podcast.
I didn't say it was a good list. Number 12.
There's less studying this. Is this your list? Did you write? This sounds like a ChatGPT generated. This is
I think
terrible.
it is actually. Number 12. This is from improvedpodcast.com, Charles. There's less competition compared to other media forms. Well, that's not true. The number of podcasts which have two middle-aged guys banging on.
Yeah.
I mean, admittedly, we have more listeners than many of them.
What are they called?
Hamish and Andy.
What are the genre? This is called a chumcast.
Oh, yes, this is a chumcast. Yeah, no, I am actually genuinely studying podcasting academically, and this is technically it's both a news podcast and a chumcast, which is sort of friends talking. Yeah. And,
friends?
People who appear to know each other. People who know each other well enough to make fun of each other's personal foibles, I think is the line.
Oh, right, okay.
And so, yes.
And so, hang on. Why didn't you bring in like an interesting academic paper rather than...
Because I love this. This is terrible.
Okay.
13, the platform is still growing.
Yes. Well, actually, that's the reason I'm doing it. It's because it doesn't matter how bad you are.
Yeah, at least you're early.
If in a growing market, there'll always be new suckers.
First mover advantage.
It's sort of like a Ponzi scheme, the early stages of a pyramid scheme.
A podcasting Ponzi scheme. I like it. 14, become an industry influencer and thought leader.
Well,
you'd like that, Charles. That's very you.
We already are. We're heading to the Australian Podcast Awards tonight.
We are.
Or, if this is afterwards, we were just at the Australian Podcast Awards.
Let's not mention whether we won or not in our category of best comedy.
But
you can look it up online.
But that was about network. That was about being an industry leader.
It's about
wasn't
thought leading.
Yes.
I'm going to start every conversation at the Podcast Awards by saying, well, as a thought leader.
Yes. Look, I've got kids, and especially when they're a bit younger, I feel like I was a thought leader towards them.
Yeah, just because they had no thoughts.
Yeah, that's right.
That's very low.
It was like, it is now dinner time. And they'd go, oh, okay, it's dinner time. Well, there you go.
I'll run you through the rest because we're almost out of time. We've got to get to the awards. Expand your search potential? Nah.
What does that even mean?
Redirect traffic to your landing pages, chaser.com.au, chasershop.com.
Waron2023.com.
Go and see whatever this thing is. There is potential to monetize, Charles.
Where? Where?
You can pay $4 a month.
I tried that with the avocado. Yeah. Don't do that.
Now, finally, miscellaneous reasons to start a podcast. This is great.
Well, this is keeps going.
Yeah, there's 21 of these.
You can read out. Is the one you can read out lists on the podcast.
Can enable you to interview people you may look up to. Have we ever done that?
Well, Grace Tame.
Saul Griffith.
Yeah, that was good.
We made more effort in the first year of the podcast, didn't we?
Mm.
We should probably get some of them back. You enjoy connecting with others? Well, I don't.
Max Chandler Mather. He's quite good.
You enjoy helping others? I think this podcast has in no way helped anybody.
No.
If this podcast has helped you, email podcast@chaser.com.au and explain how, because frankly, I don't believe it. And this is my favourite one for you, Charles.
I am.
21, you're accessible 24/7. But that's not because of the podcast. That's because you gave your phone number out repeatedly.
But wait a minute, that sounds like horrific. That's not a reason.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah. Oh, it means that people can listen to you 24/7.
Yes, people can listen on demand. And that is one of the things I am genuinely studying about podcasting.
It's like being a screaming baby.
Yes.
Yes.
At any point in time.
Yes. And it is true. Like, I've started listening to this wonderful podcast called Swindled, which is...
Victims of avocado pull toy fraud.
I just check in on it occasionally just to make sure I haven't been mentioned. No, but it is true. Like, as soon as I started listening to Swindled, I then started listening to all the backstories because it's available 24/7. Like, I binged it.
Well, that's the reason why it's so good.
Do you think that happens to our podcast? Do people go back to the heyday and listen to the Max Chandler Mather?
I doubt it.
Episode?
Charles, look, we've taken a strategic goal with this podcast. There's several ways you can do it. One of them is high quality and re-listenable and, those sort of serial type things. I listened to Serial for the first time this year. I'd never listened to it before.
Oh, it's
fantastic. Still just as good as it ever was, right? And that's going to be good forever to listen back to. The other thing you can do is just massive abundance without much quality control like this. It's is which takes more time. Probably the serial version.
I thought we were doing the quality thing.
No. The reason it's available 24/7 is because literally there's so much of it. You could just play it 24/7 and never run out. Let me just tell you how many episodes we've done of this thing before we sign off, Charles, and head to the podcast awards. Where look, we may as well reveal now. We've had to do we've got a busy week. We've had to do a few episodes before heading off to the awards. There are, I think, 700 odd episodes of this thing now.
Right, so divided by 7 million, there's actually not that many. We've only got about 3 listeners.
Yeah, but they're very dedicated.
Yeah, that's true.
Thanks for being one of them. Our gear is from Road. We're part of the Iconoclast network. And if you want to start a podcast, tell us about it. Email podcast@chaser.com.au.
Yeah, and we'll get you on.
We
and
might
you can
plug
cross-promote. We'll just cross-promote.
Or we'll play a clip from it and make fun of you. One of the two things.
Oh, yeah.